There are some Rainbow Six Siege settings that you do not want on. So in today's video, I'll be giving you 10 settings that ruin your game that you didn't even know might be there. The first of which being screen shake intensity. This automatically is set to default, and you want to turn it all the way off. Screen shake intensity essentially means that if something blows up, it shakes your entire screen. As you can see, I put a breaching charge on this wall, and whenever I do it, my entire screen shakes. Now, this is cool for realism, but if somebody's behind the wall, you won't be able to see them or shoot them reliably because your entire screen is shaking like an earthquake. So a lot of people will put it on medium, but even then when you put it on medium, it still shakes a lot. It's not much, but if you want to immerse yourself in realism, a lot of people do it. I don't recommend you do it at all. And that's because when you turn it off, just like I just did, it doesn't shake whatsoever, and you can still reliably take gunfights through breaches, and this setting can be the difference between you winning and losing some gunfights. Another setting that can be the difference between you winning or losing a gunfight is your anti-aliasing. Now, there's about 5 settings for anti-aliasing. There's TAA off, FXAA, TAA2, or TAA4. Now, there's only 2 acceptable options. You can turn on TAA if you really do have an issue with render scaling, but that's if you're on a terrible PC, and even then, I still don't recommend doing it because anti-aliasing in this game just doesn't work as intended. So, you want to just turn anti-aliasing off. This will give you so many more frames than you had before, while also still retaining a lot of the beauty in how the game looked in the first place. It looks a lot more crisp, and it gives you a lot more FPS, which is exactly what you want in a game that's all about FPS. In my opinion as well, it makes the game look sharper. It makes the game look better, which is one of the reasons that I run anti-aliasing just completely off. Another thing that you definitely want off is aspect ratio being on 16:9. This is the aspect ratio that is default with the game. The reason you want this off is because you want wide stretched res, the most common ones being 3:2, 4:3, or 16:10. The most popular of which being 4:3. This is the aspect ratio that I play on. Everything does look a bit wider, but once you get used to it after playing a few games, when you go back to 16:9, it just looks wrong. The reason that you always want wide stretched res on is because it makes things just look thicker. And because of that, it allows you to be able to see enemies and their shoulders when they're peeking a lot sooner than you would be able to if you were on 16:9. For example, if we pretend that the edge of this file cabinet is the leg of a player, I am able to see the leg of this player a lot more reliably and a lot quicker because it's just thicker on my screen. And now I'm going to stand in the exact same spot. I'm not going to move. I'm going to go to my options and I'm going to put my settings onto 16:10, press apply, and escape. And now it's a lot harder to see the leg of that person, and it's a lot skinnier, and smaller things moving at the same rate as bigger things appear to be faster. So enemies will appear faster, which will give you less reaction time, which will in turn lose you a lot of gunfights to people who just have skinnier legs. Also, by the way, I put it on 16:10 and not 16:9, but you get the idea. A setting that's even more important that you turn off is your drone deployment being on standard. You want to put this on advanced. Now, the difference between these 2 settings is, as of right now, I have my drone deployment on standard. And if I were to just throw out a drone, when I throw out a drone, I will immediately get on the drone. Now, you might be thinking that this saves time, because 1, you don't have to actually waste time pressing the button to get on your drone, but 2, if you're behind cover, you, again, don't have to worry about pressing a button or moving to get behind cover once you do throw the drone out. Now, this is good-spirited, but it's just wrong. Not only is the time that you save so minimal, it's not even noteworthy, but it also leaves you open to free kills. Let's open up this door really quickly. And let's pretend that I'm about to drone out small tower just like this. But what I don't know is there's a defender on the right side of this doorway. Once he sees me getting on my drone and droning, he's just going to run out of this door and kill me whilst I'm on my drone wherever I'm hiding. To completely counter this, all you have to do is put your drone deployment on advanced. Putting your drone deployment on advanced will allow you to throw your drone, but you won't actually get on it automatically. If you want to get on it automatically, all you have to do is press the same button twice and you'll get on the drone. Now, the reason that this saves you from people who are trying to run out on you is because if you were to throw your drone, they're going to hear you throw your drone or see you throw your drone, depending on where you throw it, and then they're going to run out. But secretly, you're not on your drone. You have your gun up and you'll be ready to kill them because you're smart and you put your drone deployment on advanced. Another setting that you need to turn off of standard is your gadget deployment. Now, it's not for the same exact reason as the drone deployment, although with some operators, you can do the exact same thing. The reason you turn this on to advanced is, let's pretend that I'm Thermite, and I'm trying to open up the CC wall so that I can plant inside of the top floor on Clubhouse. Now, as you can see, because I have my gadget deployment on advanced, I can sit and hover my gadget just like this, and I can have it and hold it in my hand without having to place it on the wall. This is really good, because if there's a bandit on this wall, and this wall is electrified, and I have a Thatcher, when the Thatcher goes to EMP the wall right here, I would have to wait for the Thatcher EMP to explode, and then I'd be able to pull my gadget out and put it on the wall. This gives Bandit a lot more time, even if it's just by a few seconds, to put a bandit charge on the wall, which can be the difference between me getting the wall open and the wall staying closed. Now, if you were to go to your settings, go to the controls tab, scroll down to gadget deployment and put it on advanced, then you can just have your thermite charge out waiting for your Thatcher EMP to get on the wall. Once the EMP is about to explode, you can start to put your thermite charge on the wall, and that way you're saving an extra around like 2 or 3 seconds that you normally wouldn't get if you didn't have your gadget deployment on advanced. Not only this, yes, you will get shocked by a bandit charge, but you'll save time, and that's all that really matters. So the bandit won't have enough time to trick your thermite on the wall because of one simple setting, and now, because of that, you have the wall open. It's not something that will completely change your gameplay because it saves your FPS or anything like that, but it's definitely something worth noting. Something that will definitely save your FPS though, is going to your graphics tab and turning off all of your overall quality from ultra all the way to low. If you don't have all of your settings on low, you're making a huge mistake. If you look in the bottom right here, where it shows how many megabytes of storage my graphics card is having to work for in order to run the game, this is pretty low. That means my computer isn't having to work as hard in order to run the game, which means it can run it smoother and it can give me more FPS. This is crucially important because, as you can see, just me taking it to medium increases it by a lot. Almost double. Me putting it on high increases it even more. Very high gets almost half of your graphics card, and ultra is a little tiny bit more than that. You just can't really see it. But even just going from very high all the way to low, you can begin to see how much your graphics card has to work. So putting it on low is just going to be your best bet. Now sure, that does save your frames, but there are some certain settings you actually want to keep a little bit higher than low. The first of which being your LOD quality. Your LOD quality essentially makes it to where certain objects appear at a higher quality depending on the distance that you're looking at it from. So instead of putting this on low, let's crank it up all the way to ultra and hit apply. As you can see, I brought you onto Geisha and Skyscraper. Now, I want you to pay attention to the grading on the top side of this wall right here. Now, no matter the distance at which I'm looking at that from, it appears to be the exact same. It's flush throughout. That's because my LOD quality is set to ultra. Now, if I were to set this all the way to low and hit apply, as you can see, some of the bars when I'm not aiming in don't appear to be full until I get pretty close to them and then they thicken out. This happens to a lot more than just these black bars. As you can see, when I back up, everything seems to get thinner for all of these bars until they're almost like kind of gone. But when I get close to them, they completely fill out. Like I said, this is not subject to just wall grading. This is subject to a lot of important things that you need to be able to see from a very far distance away. I mean, hell, even look at the bars on these walls. Like, that is really, really hard to see with LOD quality being super low. Things like punch holes also will be really hard to see, which can get you killed. So make sure you go to your options, you go to graphics, and you crank up LOD quality all the way to ultra. If, of course, your PC can handle it. The second setting that you don't want on low is shadow quality. Now, shadows don't actually appear until you put it on medium. You don't need your shadows on high or very high because all it does is really increase the quality of the shadow, which you don't really need. You just need them on, so I'd put it on medium. That's because there's certain maps like Clubhouse, where it's a pretty bright map and the direction of the sun is very clear because all of the shadows are pointing this way. As you can see, the van shadow is pointing this way, this van shadow is pointing this way, and so on. Now, when you get on this default camera, because I have my settings set to medium with shadows, as you can see on my player model, you can clearly see my shadow on the right side right there. Which means that people on this window who have the correct settings will be able to see my shadow before I peek out of this white van before they see me. And if they're able to see my shadow before they see me, that means they're able to know that I'm there way before I know that they're there, so they get a huge advantage onto me, which can get them a free kill. So just having shadows on can get you free kills like that. One of the best examples that I can think of is when you're sitting inside of rafters and people are on the left side of this door. You can easily see their shadow right here before they even peek out of the door, which can allow you to swing and kill them before they even know what hit them. So turning your shadows on medium and off of low is very important. Overall, I think this has got to be one of the most underrated tips. An even more important tip, though, is turning off your team color from blue to either orange or red. The reason that you do this is because it allows you to go into your accessibility settings and turn on the opposing team color to blue, which is very important. Let's take this Claymore example for example. As a defender, which Claymore line is harder to see? This red Claymore line on red stairs that you're barely even able to notice, or this bright blue line that really sticks out on the red stairs? Obviously, the blue line is going to be much more obvious than a red one on a red stairs, and because there's barely any blue stairs where a blue line would blend in, you want to make sure that your opposing team color is on blue so that if you're a defender, you have a much easier time at seeing claymores on the flank. It also goes for seeing Valkyrie cameras on attack. If it's red, it's a lot easier to see than if it were blue. So making sure that your team color is on either orange or red, where your opposing team color is on blue, is crucial if you want to be able to see enemy gadgets a lot easier. Something else that makes it way easier for you to see enemy gadgets is turning off your FPS limit. The FPS limit is exactly what it says. It limits your FPS. So if you have a computer that allows you to run, let's say 144 frames per second, and a monitor that allows you to run 144 hertz per second, as you can see up here, putting an FPS limit on 75 will only allow your monitor and PC to run at 75 frames per second in the game, which is bad. You want to make sure that your FPS limit is completely off. Now, you can have it at the exact limit of your refresh rate and your PC's FPS, but I wouldn't even recommend doing that, because sometimes you'll get lucky and randomly get 200 FPS, so I would just completely turn it off. There's no reason to have a limiter on how much FPS you get, because FPS is like gold to you. You want as much of it as you can to see people as easy as possible. Now, seeing people is great, but hearing them is even more important, which is why you need to scroll down to your dynamic range and turn off hi-fi and turn off TV mode to put it onto night mode. Now, sound settings like this have been a debate amongst the Siege community for ages now. There are people that swear by night mode, there are people that swear by hi-fi. Hell, even people in Pro League are playing on TV mode because they think that's the best. Well, I'm here to settle this debate. First of all, TV mode, no contest, is just terrible. Don't use it. If you're on a TV, you can use it, but why would you be on a TV? Just get a $20 headset from GameStop. Now, hi-fi is a lot of people's clear choice because it gives the most sound quality due to the fact that you have the most dynamic range in audio. The issue with hi-fi is it makes explosions and gunfire very, very loud. As you can see, I brought you onto Oregon with Ash explosives again. If I go to options and I go to my audio and I turn my master volume onto 55, we're going to test exactly what a Ash breaching charge sounds like whenever we have on hi-fi. Now, let me go destroy this radio, and then let's test the explosion on the wall. It was very, very loud. Now, if we go to options, we go to audio, we keep it on 55 but turn it onto night mode, the explosion is going to sound much quieter. That was way quieter than hi-fi. Now, the reason that it's quieter is because there's not as much of a dynamic range for night mode to pick up on, so it's not going to be able to pick up on louder noises. So a lot of people think, well, it also won't be able to pick up on quieter noises, like footsteps, but that's not true. Right now, I've turned on hi-fi, on 55 volume still. We're going to walk from here, all the way, to here, and we're going to see what it sounds like. So that was footsteps on with hi-fi and 55 volume. If we go to options and we go to audio and we turn it on to night mode, this is what footsteps sound like. They sound the exact same. That's because night mode doesn't actually turn down sound and hi-fi has louder sound. That's just not true. Hi-fi just makes it to where louder sounds can actually be louder, which is good for immersion and realism and sound quality, but it's not good if you actually want to hear people across the map while you have grenades going on in your face and while you're shooting guns, because with hi-fi on, that's pretty much impossible. Not only can having the wrong audio settings really mess you up in game, but so can having the wrong HUD settings. This is why when you go to display and you have your HUD display area on 100, you need to turn that off and go all the way down to 80. Now, this is what a HUD looks like on 100. Everything is a lot bigger and it's on the edge of your screen, which can get pretty annoying. But if you were to go to your display settings and turn your HUD display area all the way down to 80, it's much smaller. Now it is more in the center of your screen, but because it's so small and half of the HUD is transparent anyways, it's not like you're going to miss an enemy because the HUD is too centered on your screen. You will, however, miss an enemy, like let's say on the top of this staircase, if you were to have on your HUD on max, because it completely covers the top of your screen. So if there's somebody on top fireplace and you're looking down maybe on vert, you won't be able to see them because your HUD is covering it. However, if you turn this all the way down and you still want to make vert right here, that's not necessarily the case because this isn't covered anymore from your HUD, which is really, really nice and can be the difference between you seeing somebody and not seeing somebody, which is great. Not only should you minimize the size of your HUD, but you should also minimize the amount of things on your HUD. For example, if you don't need the compass to be on advanced, you can put it on simplified, which makes it a bit smaller and less complicated for your eyes to look at. If you don't need to know your health for whatever reason, you can turn that off too. If you don't need action reminders, which I guarantee you don't, you can turn those off, or at least just have the icons on. But having certain things turned off if you don't need them or don't like them is great because it makes your brain have to focus on less things, which can in turn make you able to focus enough to get a kill and win a game that you normally might not have won. But in terms of settings that you need to turn off, that's pretty much it for this video. My name's Alka, check out this next video, and I'll see you there. Later.